Good morning, everybody. We're going to be continuing on the story of Joseph today. It's number 14, The King's Dream, Genesis chapter 41, verses 14 through 40. So Joseph is thrown in the dungeon last week, or yesterday, we should say. And we did start Joseph last week, but yesterday we saw him being thrown in the dungeon. And today we see that they remember Joseph after the Pharaoh has a dream in which he can't find an interpreter for. So they call Joseph up. He comes and he gives the meaning to Pharaoh, who's king of Egypt, of what the dream means. And there's ultimately these cows and grain, and the skinny cows eat up the fat cows, and so likewise with the grain, and all this to symbolize. Joseph tells the Pharaoh that there's going to be 7 years of a prosperous time and 7 years of famine. And with that knowledge, Pharaoh is to take the 7 years of plenty and store up for the 7 years of famine. So this is definitely good advice to know. If we all knew that perhaps we would have to stock water and canned goods because they would all be sold out, or maybe prior to COVID, being told that bottled water and toilet paper would be, hard to come by, we would have all appreciated that advice ahead of time, especially if it was 7 years of being without much cattle or grain. So this is not only good information, but literally life-saving, if not kingdom-saving information. And thus, Pharaoh appoints Joseph to be head or second in command, other than himself, over Egypt. So let's look at the questions. How do we know that Joseph was a humble man? Well, it says early on in the text here, they call Joseph up before Pharaoh. And one of the things he does is he shaves, he makes himself presentable, so he doesn't just walk in there like, you need me, I don't need you, right? So some of his actions show, but also specifically, he says, Joseph answered Pharaoh saying, "It isn't me, God will give Pharaoh the answer of peace." So he attributes his wisdom to God. God has given him this gift, and so it's not him, it's God. So Pharaoh, don't look to me, look to God. That is true humility. Our second question says, how does the story show that God controls future events? Well, we see that he gave Pharaoh the dream, but he gave Joseph the interpretation of the dream, and ultimately he made those things come to pass. Or, he knew these things were coming to pass and revealed them to Joseph. Well, in a certain sense, he revealed them to Pharaoh, but gave further revelation to Joseph of their meaning, which is the ultimate importance, right? In any dream or in any sign or symbol or thing we read, it's not just the knowledge of it or the awareness of it. It would be the true understanding behind it. Third, describe how Joseph's trust in God over the years led to his vindication and rise to a position of greatness. Well, he had a rough start. He's thrown into a well, sold off to Ishmaelite traders, and then further sold to the Egyptians. He's falsely accused, thrown in a dungeon, forgotten about after he gives the meaning of a dream to the chief cupbearer. Things aren't going well for Joseph. Let's just say from a naturalistic standpoint, he's doing everything right and everything is going wrong. And if there's ever a guy that could blame God, be mad at God, and say, Lord, what is going on? It's Joseph. And yet, that doesn't appear to be his attitude. He stays firm in his faith in God. He understands the sinfulness of man. He understands that these predicaments that have come his way are the doing of evil men rather than God. And what his famous line that we'll probably see coming up in the next story, what his brothers and everyone else we can even say Potiphar's wife, so on and so forth. What they meant for evil, God meant for good. But we'll get more into that tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow.